And they lay eggs so that the young don't have to develop in water. They can just develop in the egg. Everything in the egg is there that the organism needs. Food, water, a place for their waste, protection. There's a membrane that gets oxygen. Everything's there for the developing reptile. But one thing reptiles can't do is they can't live in places where it's real cold, because they're cold-blooded. Their body temperature is the same as the outside temperature. So, if it gets really, really cold, they'll freeze. Solid. You can have a lizard popsicle. You could bang on the desk. It would be frozen solid. Reptiles cannot survive where it's freezing. If they do live in places where it freezes, they have to go underground or into the water or someplace until the temperature gets warmer. They can't survive in the freezing. So that led to the evolution of birds and mammals. Birds and mammals are warm-blooded. They can survive where it's freezing because they keep a constant body temperature that's high. So it can be 0 degrees out, and a polar bear is 98.6 body temperature, or a bird has a high body temperature even though it's cold out. So you can have birds living in places where it's freezing. And so that's what happened. Birds and mammals evolved from reptiles. So this is a bird, obviously, an eagle, and it's got a whole bunch of different things that allow for its survival. And the first thing you notice about a bird that's different is it has feathers. Now, the feathers first evolved to keep the bird warm. They're called down feathers. Have y'all ever heard of those? Yeah. They're real tiny feathers that sit against the bird's body that keep in heat, because birds are warm-blooded. So the heat that they produce, it needs to be kept in. If they didn't have the feathers, all the heat would go out into the air, and they would have to use too much energy. So they needed the feathers to keep the heat in. Only millions of years later did the feathers start to evolve for flight. And this is showing a flight feather and how it's shaped. It's shaped a lot like an airplane wing. And that makes sense because it's for flight. The birds later evolved the ability to fly. The first thing they evolved was endothermy. That's the scientific word for warm-blooded. They evolved endothermy and the ability to keep in heat. And so they got those down feathers for that. Later they evolved, they have all sorts of evolutionary adaptations for flight. One of them is they have hollow bones. Bird bones, this is showing a bird skeleton here. Bird bones are hollow.
They don't have any marrow?
They have marrow in them, but there's just a lot of open spaces in a bird bone, whereas in a mammal bone there's a lot less. If you throw a bird bone on the water, it'll float. If you throw a mammal bone on the water, it'll sink. And so those light bones are great for flight and make the bird a lot lighter. If a bird had bones like ours, it wouldn't be able to fly. What's the disadvantage of having hollow bones?
Wind blowing you away.
What'd you say?
Easier to eat.
What do you mean?
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Easier to break.
Easier to break. Yeah, it's easier for. I think that's what you were meaning when you're saying easier for predators to eat. It's their hollow bones are fragile, so they break easily. So if you have hollow bones, you can't withstand as much damage. So that's a disadvantage of having hollow bones. But the advantage for flight overcomes the disadvantage of having them break easily. So that's one thing. Birds have a very light skeleton. If you've ever held a bird, they're real light. Another thing is they have this giant keel on their on their breastbone, on their sternum. Our breastbones, our sternum, this bone right here is flat. Theirs has a thing that comes way out. It's called a keel. And what that does, Lachlan, you with me? What that does, this bone that sticks way out here, it allows real big chest muscles to evolve. Birds have giant chest muscles for flapping those wings. Have you ever eaten chicken breast? Gone to Kentucky Fried Chicken, got a breast? Chicken breast is this chest muscle. It's real big and thick for flight. It contracts, it flaps the wings, you see, like this. And our chest muscle can't get that big because we have a flat sternum. I mean, the biggest, guys that work out, they have big chest muscles, but they have to go back to this flat sternum. In a bird that has a keel coming out, the chest muscle can get huge and attach way up here on that keel. So, birds have these huge muscles that allow them to fly for long periods of time without getting tired. Another thing that birds have, this blue area here, this is the air sacs. Birds have lots of air sacs for storing extra oxygen inside their body. These air sacs, when a bird breathes in, the air goes to the lungs, but extra air goes to these air sacs. And when a bird breathes out, the air comes out of the lungs, but air from the air sacs go into the lungs when a bird is breathing out. So the bird gets fresh air to its lungs when it breathes in and when it breathes out. We only get fresh air to our lungs when we breathe in. When we breathe out, there's no fresh air going into the lungs. It happens with them from their air sacs, and it makes them get way more oxygen in their blood than we can. So birds can get a lot more oxygen to their cells and not get tired as fast. If you've ever wondered how does a bird fly all day, these are the reasons. It's got a 4-chambered heart, whereas most reptiles have a 3-chambered heart. A few have a 4-chambered heart. All birds have a 4-chambered heart.
A bird or reptile?
Birds evolved from reptiles. The reptiles changed into birds.
So what would birds be classified as? Birds?
Well, it depends what classification scheme you're using, but some scientists classify birds as a group of reptiles. Another thing that birds have that's different is they don't have teeth. Birds have a beak with no teeth. You probably didn't realize this, but teeth are heavy. And if you're going to fly, you want to be as light as possible. So get rid of the teeth and instead have an organ called a gizzard. You ever heard of that organ? Gizzard. That's the gizzard right there. And what the gizzard has is little tiny stones in it that grind up any food that they swallow. And that is actually, the gizzard and the beak are a lot lighter than a jaw with teeth. And so birds evolved to lose their teeth and evolved a gizzard to grind up the food. So all of these different things allow the bird to be real light and to fly. Birds didn't always fly. The first birds were dinosaurs with feathers, basically, that ran around. And some of them evolved longer feathers that helped them glide a little bit. And probably the evolution to flight was gliding, a little bit of gliding it started out with, where the bird would glide along. And this is a fossil of a famous bird called Archaeopteryx. Can you say Archaeopteryx?
Archaeopteryx.
That's a bird slash dinosaur. It's a lot like a bird because it's got feathers. You see the imprint of the feathers there in the rock? That beautiful, there's a beautiful fossil here. So you say, oh, it's got feathers, it's a bird. But if you look at its jaw, it's got teeth. Birds don't have teeth. And it's got claws at the end of its arms here. Birds don't have claws on their wings. And if you look at the bones, it doesn't have hollow bones, it's got heavy bones. So this thing probably could not fly, it was probably a glider. And could probably, if something was chasing after it, it could jump out of the tree, and instead of falling to its death, it could float down to safety. That's probably how flying started. Do you want to see the silly Archaeopteryx song?
Yes.
It's kind of cute.
One of the weirdest, wildest dinos around. The first dinosaur with feathers, the Archaeopteryx.
Yes.
Archaeopteryx, a bird-like flying dinosaur. Archaeopteryx, with a mouth full of teeth. Archaeopteryx, a long bony tail and then two feather wings and three claws on each. Archaeopteryx, from the Jurassic period. Archaeopteryx, been found fossilized. Archaeopteryx, of the Vertebrates. Archaeopteryx, just about full size. Flying high, like those wings. No one knows if it could fly. Flying high, like those wings that never get up to the sky. Archaeopteryx, bird-like flying dinosaur. Archaeopteryx, with a mouth full of teeth. Archaeopteryx, a long, long tail and then two feather wings and three claws on each. Bird-like flying dinosaur. Archaeopteryx, a mouthful of teeth. Archaeopteryx, a long, long tail and then two feather wings and three claws on each. Archaeopteryx, from the Jurassic period. Archaeopteryx, been found fossilized. Archaeopteryx, of the Vertebrates. Archaeopteryx, just about from the side of the wall. Running high, like those wings, no one knows if it can fly. Running high, like those wings, they never get up to the sky. Archaeopteryx, a bird-like flying dinosaur. Archaeopteryx, with a mouthful of teeth. Archaeopteryx, a long, long tail and then two feather wings and three claws on each. Two feather wings and three claws on each. Two feather wings and three claws on each.
You like that?
Yeah.
That was awesome. Here it shows some of the different shapes of birds. Birds have evolved all kinds of different shapes for flight. If you ever see short body, really long wingspan, these things are for long distance flying like the albatross. Can glide, stay aloft for a long time. If you ever see shorter, fatter wings, that's for making quick turns and that sort of thing to avoid predators. So there's all kinds of different shapes, and of course some birds can't fly at all.
Penguin. Awesome.
10 points if you can name a bird that can't fly at all.
Oh, no.
You guys? Oh, yeah.
You guys know this.
I know 3.
Yeah. It's a bird that can't fly.
Was that a question?
No, that's just what I know.
Okay.
That's what I know.
There's so many other ones.
Green is correct. Purple is correct. White, I'll give it to you.
Everybody's head, dude.
I don't know if I can get it orange.
I don't think I'm doing
Yes. Blue is correct. Yes. Penguin is good. An ostrich
And flamingos fly.
is good. Yeah, flamingos fly. Don't know about this stuff.
Peacocks cannot fly.
They can't?
No, they can't. Yeah, peacocks.
Neither can.
They cannot.
I don't know if they can.
I know that for a fact.
They're
You
big,
don't have to
portly
look it up.
birds.
I know for a fact.
Wait, no, I've never
Peacocks can't fly.
They can kind of fly.
They
Yeah,
can.
they can kind of just like chicken around with it. They
can't like
fly.
Hard to hold this thing steady.
I'd like to see a peacock in the air.
Yes, peacoks definitely fly.
Oh, no, they
Stand
don't.
up.
You can't
Up
fly
to low-hanging tree branches.
I mean,
But
No, I thought you had to turn it on when you took it.
see,
I thought you had to turn it on when you took it.
yeah,
So like,
I just
I
fly
didn't
if
even
I
know.
wanted to. Yeah, like I can raise my hand and let it up like.
Probably from the night
Around 150 million years ago, a creature called Archaeopteryx took to the skies. Part reptile, part bird, the creature had teeth, solid bones, and reptilian claws. But it had something else too. Archaeopteryx had feathers. Over the next 75 million years, feathers and flight improved. Birds lost their teeth, and most grew hollow bones, which reduced weight and made flying easier. Flight may have evolved to help birds escape predators, catch fast prey, or to make it easier to move from place to place. No one really knows. One thing is certain. All 8,700 species of modern birds have feathers. Made of keratin, the same protein found in hair, feathers apparently evolved from the scales of reptilian ancestors. A typical bird of prey has over 7,000 feathers. Small, light feathers refined for flight help eagles catch air. But even flightless birds have feathers. Penguins pack 70 stiff feathers in a square inch. These feathers provide waterproofing and cover an insulating layer of blubber. Feather colours are usually provided by different pigments. Black, grey and brown birds have melanin to thank for their colour. Scarlet ibises owe this splashy red to the carotene found in the shrimps and other crustaceans they eat. All feathered creatures lay eggs too. But nest-building styles range from simple to elaborate. The young of some birds, like ducks, are precocial, able to feed themselves as soon as they're born. Other young birds, like this albatross, are altricial and must wait to be fed by parents. The search for food takes many birds on annual migrations. Hummingbirds may fly hundreds of kilometers from nesting sites as far north as the Canadian border to their wintering grounds in Mexico, making the trip to and fro each year. Such bold adaptive skills have allowed birds to find homes in most habitats on Earth.
Huh. Very interesting.